Imagine a world where Athens, the birthplace of democracy, the home of the Parthenon, and the heart of ancient Greece, was actually part of Turkey. How would history have changed? Would Greek culture still dominate the city, or would it have become fully Turkish? Would the Parthenon be a mosque instead of a symbol of ancient Greek civilization? Would the city's narrow streets be filled with the smell of Turkish coffee and Ottoman-style bazaars instead of Greek tavernas? And most importantly, who would get to claim souvlaki and tzatziki? Let's dive into this alternate history. Before we jump into today's world, let's ask the biggest question. How could this have even happened? Most people think of 1453 when Constantinople fell, but just a few years later in 1458, the Ottomans took Athens too. It remained under Ottoman control for nearly 4 centuries, with the Parthenon even being used as a mosque at one point. But what if instead of gaining independence in 1830, Athens had stayed part of the Ottoman Empire and later modern Turkey? The Greek War of Independence, which began in 1821, could have gone differently. The Ottomans were initially overwhelmed, but with more support from European powers, the Greeks managed to push back and secure independence. But what if the great powers, Britain, France, and Russia, had decided it wasn't worth the trouble? What if they had abandoned the Greek revolutionaries and left Greece under Ottoman rule? Without foreign intervention, the rebellion could have been crushed, and Athens would have remained a major Ottoman city into the modern era. Then there's the Treaty of Sèvres after World War I. This was a moment when the Ottoman Empire was nearly carved up, and Greece was supposed to gain significant territory in Asia Minor, including Smyrna, modern-day Izmir. But what if, instead of Greece expanding into Turkey, Turkey had pushed further into Greece, taking Athens along with it? Imagine an alternate version of the Greco-Turkish War of 1919 to 1922, where instead of Greece losing its hold on Anatolia, Turkey counterattacks even further, eventually capturing Athens. What if Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, instead of focusing on reclaiming Turkish lands, had pushed forward and turned Athens into a Turkish capital in Europe? Now, let's imagine what the world would look like today if Athens were still part of Turkey. The biggest question is, would Greece even exist? Athens has been the heart of Greek identity for thousands of years. Without it, would Greece be a much smaller country, or would it still be independent at all? Would Thessaloniki or another city have become the capital? Maybe Greece would still exist as a small Balkan state, but without its most famous city, it might not have the same global recognition. And what about Turkey? If Athens were part of Turkey today, would Turkey be an even stronger regional power? With a foothold deep into Europe, Turkey would have direct influence over the Mediterranean. Controlling Athens and its strategic location would give Turkey access to the massive shipping routes of the Aegean Sea and beyond. The Piraeus port, one of the busiest in the Mediterranean, would be under Turkish control, further strengthening Turkey's economic influence in global trade. But let's talk about daily life in this alternate Athens. Would it still feel Greek, or would it have been completely transformed into a Turkish city? Under Ottoman rule, Athens had mosques, Ottoman-style architecture, and Turkish as an official language. In this alternate timeline, would modern-day Athens have large mosques instead of Orthodox churches? Would Greek street signs be replaced with Turkish ones? Would Turkish be the dominant language spoken in schools, businesses, and government institutions? The cultural shift would be enormous. Athens, known as the birthplace of democracy, might have had a completely different political evolution under Turkish rule. Would Turkey have allowed Athens to maintain some level of Greek identity, or would there have been an effort to assimilate the population into Turkish culture? Would the Acropolis still be a national symbol, or would it have been rebranded as part of Turkey's Ottoman heritage? And then there's the question of food. We already know Greece and Turkey have had endless debates over dishes like baklava, coffee, and gyros. But in this alternate world, would we even be calling it Greek food anymore? Imagine an Athens where souvlaki and moussaka are labeled as traditional Turkish dishes, with no debate left to be had. Greek coffee? Just call it Turkish coffee, because in this timeline that's all it ever was. Now let's take this further. If Athens were Turkish today, what would the political situation look like? Would there be constant tensions between Greeks and Turks living in the city? Would Athens have a large Greek minority demanding autonomy, or would it have been fully integrated into Turkish society? Would Turkey and Greece be in a constant state of diplomatic crisis, with Greece still trying to reclaim its historic capital? Would there be a divided Athens similar to Cold War Berlin? Imagine an Athens with a Turkish-controlled sector and a Greek sector, each side refusing to acknowledge the other's authority. Maybe there would be a green line like in Cyprus, a heavily militarized zone separating the two communities. Or maybe Athens would have become an autonomous city-state, similar to Vatican City? Could it have been an internationally governed city, where both Greeks and Turks shared administration? Perhaps it would have been a city of religious and cultural significance, attracting both Greek Orthodox Christians and Turkish Muslims as a shared heritage site. One of the most significant questions would be about NATO and the European Union. Today, both Greece and Turkey are part of NATO, but their relationship is already tense. If Turkey controlled Athens, would this make NATO's Mediterranean operations even more complicated? Would the EU even exist in its current form? Would Greece still be a member, or would the loss of Athens have prevented it from becoming a major European player? And what about the modern political landscape? Would Greek nationalism be even stronger, with Greeks constantly seeking to reclaim Athens? Would Turkey have had to deal with separatist movements from Greeks wanting independence? Could this have led to wars in the 20th or 21st century? At the end of the day, the question remains, would the world be better or worse if Athens were part of Turkey today? Would it be a thriving multicultural hub, where Greek and Turkish cultures coexist peacefully? Or would it be a city in constant turmoil, caught in the tensions between two nations that have spent centuries arguing over their shared history? And of course, the most important debate of all, who gets to claim feta cheese, souvlaki, and Greek coffee? Or should we say, Turkish coffee? What do you think? Would the world be better or worse if Athens were part of Turkey today? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more alternate history deep dives.